Hi, this is Max, and this is another devlog for my game, SWAMPGRL. So, there's been a lot of progress. I have spent most of my time the past few days on just putting as much work as I possibly can into the visuals of this game. And genuinely, I think this is one of the better or best looking things I've ever made, which is nice. So, what have we got? We have separate lighting environments, world environments, if you know anything about Godot, for above water and below water. I'm trying to swim slow here so you can take in the details. Um, I'm focusing on using a lot of transparent card images, like the fog in the background here, the trees. I guess these fences technically are in part cards. This grass down here that moves, animated card. Because I think they look really cool. Yeah. I've also made some enemies that I'll be showing off here. Oh, okay. Something's going on. But there are two types of enemies. There are these swimming guys that look kind of like eels that are called amygdalae. And there are these guys on the ground. These are called moulages, like the French word. Where there's a ton more of them. And look, you can see there. Knock this guy over. They will actually go into these guys and possess them and reanimate them. See if I can get them to do it. Seems like they're glitching out. It's probably a collision issue. They're also running away because I'm here. Oh, down here? Yeah. They're getting into these guys. Getting them back up. And right now, when they do that, they also spawn a separate one, which is why there's so many. They've been multiplying. I don't know if I'm going to keep that. I think it's kind of fun, and I like how many there can be. It's because this is just, like, silly. You can also eat them. So I just ate 3 in a single bite. But if you attack while Rose here, while her head is on them, then she will eat them. And I will talk later about what kind of gameplay ramifications that's going to have. So I don't have a setup yet. It's going to be what I'm working on today. Mutation system. Like I talked about last time. But yeah. I feel like most of my work here speaks for itself. Just visually. There's not a whole lot more to it. I need to redesign this area so it actually looks like you can go out here, because right now it's not really that clear. But yeah, there's some guys over there. I just put them down as a test model, but I think they look kind of cool. They look like they're being like crucified or they're scarecrows or something. I was thinking of having some of them being like burned at the stake or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I love how it looks like silhouetted against the moon though. It's so cool. But yeah, no, this is supposed to be like a lake area, and then we're gonna go into like a river dock zone. And I want to mix in elements of like a submerged city or a submerged village that you have to move through. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if I'll be able to do that. Hopefully I will. In any case, I think that's enough of just scooting around in the game. Let's get to the cool stuff. How it's made. Okay. So there's a lot going on here. I'll start with the cards. Everything up here, these are just pictures that I downloaded from the internet. The moon, it's just a picture. The moon and some of these fog cards are actually parented to the player, so they move left and right as the player moves left and right. It gives you this impression that there is like it makes it so that there's no parallax, so they look like they're actually really far away, which is fun. But there are some more cards down here that don't move, which are what give it that nice foggy look. Yeah, and 3D model wise, all of these rocks and all this mud is literally just one model. I can show the model. It is literally just a rock. Yeah, here, boulder, a really quick boulder model that I made in like 5 minutes. And I've just been rescaling it to make the terrain, which is kind of a slow, semi-arduous process, but it's makes for really organic looking terrain, as you can see, and I think it looks really cool. So, yeah, I have some more cards over here, just grass for background. So I've got these infested rocks. They have kind of the pulsating animation that you saw. Oh, the seagrass. That is another animated prop that I made. It is literally just like some pictures that are made to wave back and forth. I can show the model. But there's really not a whole lot to it. Yeah, here's the model. As you can literally see, it's just a couple of M's. Yeah, it ends up looking pretty good when you make a lot of them. You scale them around and stuff. I also put some work. I'll talk about the water. I put some work into making the water look good, which was honestly just a lot of trial and error. Because it literally is just like a reflective surface with not subscattering, screen space reflections turned on, and a normal map. And that's all you need for it to look cool. So, I didn't need to do any shaders or anything, which makes me happy, because shaders are hard. Yeah, the lighting needs a bit of work, I think. I feel like the underwater areas are a bit too dark. And something interesting, the light for the amygdalae is actually, there is no light there. They do not have a light parented to them. It's just it's just bloom. I think they're emissive. That's what's up. So they aren't really lighting up the scene in a traditional sense. But they look like they are, which is what matters. And they kind of have a weird, eerie glow to them, which I really like. Yeah. Let me think anything else here. Body this guy. Oh, yeah, I could talk about this. The amygdalae down here, if the Millages, if I let them be reanimated, their models are actually semi-randomized. If you can see that. Like, one of them has a helmet on, and he has some barbed wire sticking out of him, the other doesn't. The guy's just not able to get up. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fun to just watch them brawl. At least to my mind. Yeah. Anyways, I already spoke about the area I want to do next, but before that point, I need to grit my teeth and actually do the mutation system, which is my next big hurdle, because I don't really know how I'm going to do that. It's a process. It's something I've kind of been dreading. I'll just show you the models while I talk about this. Just because, like, for these models, for these enemies, for these scenes, I've had an idea in my head of what I wanted them to look like. I had this sort of, preconceived notion that they were going to look a certain way, they were going to give a certain vibe, and they've ended up basically, as good as I could possibly get, as close as I can get to that vision. But for the actual mutation system, which is the theme of the game jam, roll the dice, I am much less confident. I really don't know what I want to do, which is worrying, because I know I have a tendency of kind of struggling to succeed when I don't know what I want to do. I know, shocker. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can tackle that today. Looks rather cool, doesn't it? I love it. I especially love the like transparent jelly stuff on the inside. Looks even cooler when it's actually got like light shining on it. Yeah, moulage. Such a good word. I'll show you some of the other models here. So we got this one. You know, there's not a huge amount of difference, but makes for some variation. I should move this around. Can't move it around. Can I move these? Yes. Yeah. There's one of them that has a big... Yeah, this one has a big dent in his side. Which is not as visible from the side as I thought it would be. Yeah, this one's a little larger. This one's kind of just medium all around. And then we have, you know, the wire, which I did really quickly, but you can't really see it that well, so it doesn't matter. There's a helmet. I actually borrowed this model from another project. Shout out Progenitors. Face shield for the helmet. This, hold on. This sort of crack along the inside of the face shield was actually a consequence of it not decimating correctly, and it got messed up in the software, but it looks like it's cracked, so I kept it because it looks really cool. Yeah. Save that. Think if there's anything else. Yeah. It's basically just been a lot of like art stuff. You can kind of see all the work I've done just by looking at it. So not really sure what else there is I should talk about. My future plans for this game, I guess. Yeah, I spoke about, yes, the mutation system. Okay. So I have two ideas right now for how I want to do it. And both I am very unsure on. So that's why it hasn't gotten done yet. I'll just roam around the map while I'm talking about this. I love this like light effect as she nears the surface. You can kind of see it fade, this sort of yellowish light. I think it makes her look so cool. And I can actually, yeah, it's actually a, can I? Yeah, so that's what it looks like without, and that's with. It's subtle, but I feel like it adds a lot. I can actually make it more visible. Yeah, maybe we'll keep it like that. You know, subtle effects are nice, but I also like it when you can actually tell when something cool is going on. No, I actually really like that. I feel like that really nicely like illuminates things versus, you know, them being in the dark like this. So I think I'm gonna keep it at this level. I might actually, if I have the time, I might tie it to a brightness slider. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. I have this cube floating here. Stop getting off topic. Okay. So, mutations. My two main ideas right now are dice and a kind of slot machine design, and I'm leaning towards the slot machine design. Basically, the idea is that you would have two modes. I talked about this in the last video. There would be these two modes of mutation. You would have mutation through mementos, or mental mutation, and mutation through, like, eating these amygdala guys, which would be, like, physical, just direct, like, genome mutation. Though they would both have similar effects. Not identical, but similar. Like, these guys can just slip through the wall, which I should fix. Yeah, so the slot machine idea is that basically the visual is that it's this big, it's a bunch of, like, you know, slot machine wheels, and each one of them is like a strand of DNA. It's kind of hard to describe, but if you can think of in your head of like what a double helix looks like, you know, it would look like that. Each double helix would be a single wheel, and it would spin and spin and spin and spin, and eventually it would land on some selection. And for each, you know, for each strength one that you got, you would get a point in strength. For each speed one you got, you get a point in speed, etc., etc. I thought it would be a nice, succinct way to make this system and make it, you know, kind of interesting to engage with, because then your jackpots would be like permanent upgrades that last. So if you got like all strength, you would get like a permanent bonus to damage, or you get like a special attack or something, and then you would reroll because it would probably be bad if you were just a character that was only damage. Um, yeah, the other way, dice would work better with a game that has more different kinds of enemies, which is the primary reason that I'm leaning towards doing the slot machine design, even though the theme is, quote, roll your dice. It's all the same. Casino games are casino games. And for the dice design, each enemy would have several different kinds of dice, speed dice, attack dice, etc. And depending on which enemy you kill, you would get their dice, and you'd re-roll your versions of their dice. So if you kill an enemy that has speed and damage, you would re-roll your speed and damage dice. And if you get a 6, it's a permanent bonus. Yeah, so that's, it's not a very succinct system. I don't think it's very elegant. It requires a lot of work, and it also requires, it needs to be hooked in with the enemies, of which is only really one type right now, so I'm leaning away from that. And the final thing is the mementos, like I talked about, the permanent bonuses. The idea here is that narratively, these are pieces of Rose's past life. This is little ways for her to remember who she is, remember why she wandered out here into the swamps alone. That sort of stuff. Narrative stuff. And so there'll be more kind of... I don't really know the form they're going to take quite yet. I know I want one to be like an empty bottle. I know I want her to have some like shredded clothes and stuff like that. But beyond that, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how I want you to interact with them. Like, do you just do, the chomp, like you eat the amygdala, or like, what's the deal? Yeah. So much to think about. How do I want to differentiate them from the rest of everything? From the just getting the like spin the wheel amygdala bonuses. And the answer is I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think there's one final thing I wanted to talk about, but it's kind of slipping my mind right now. Oh yeah, sound. Sound is going to be the last thing I do for this game, because as you may have noticed, there's no sound right now. So yeah, once I've gotten a minimum viable product, once I've gotten all the system stuff done, I think I'm going to move on to sound and making this game actually have sound effects and stuff, maybe some music. And once that's done, I think I'm going to move on to making that next area, that like river, submerged city, docks place. And we'll see how that goes. It could go very well, it could go very poorly. Nobody knows yet, because it hasn't happened. But anyways, I think that's just about everything. I'm hoping to release this game in a day or two. Wish me luck, I guess. And as always, if there's any comments or questions, concerns, anything anybody wants to know, you can just reach out to me through the comments. I read all of them. Anyway, this has been Max. Hope everyone has a wonderful day. Peace.